Now we're going to look at output. We've looked at input, we've looked at all kinds of hardware devices related with that. Let's have a look at output and what that entails. Types of output. Well, the first most obvious type of output is text. Text, we see it on paper and on screen, our phones, our tablets, laptops, etc. Text is a very obvious form of output. Next kind of output, we have graphics, video, and audio. Graphical output, photographs, images, still images that we take. Video output, something that's been recorded and then is played back. And audio output, output that is provided via means of sound. You will also remember that we've looked in a previous activity, we looked at some of the other hardware devices related to output. We've already done that, so I'm not going to waste time going over that. Have a look at these two things. I'm going to say devices, but a book's not really a device. We have hard copy output and soft copy output. Now, you should know by now that hard copy means tangible physical output, something you can hold in your hand, whereas soft copy is something that is not actually physical. You're looking at it on a screen. That's the difference between hard copy and soft copy. Another very well-known form of output, the most common one, which we need still, is the monitor, the TV monitor. Have a look at this monitor. Here are a whole whack of specs that I found while shopping for a computer monitor. These are actual specs from a computer monitor I found on takealot.com, and I'm going to take you through some of the terminology that you really need to know when we talk about monitors. Have a look at that one, the resolution. The resolution is the quality of a monitor. In other words, how many pixels across the screen and down, and then multiply it together. In this situation, we've got 1366 by 768. Okay, so 1336 pixels across and 768 pixels going down. Multiply that together, and that is how many pixels you have on the screen. A pixel is a small dot capable of showing a couple of colors, a number of colors. Okay, so the more pixels you have, the better the resolution is going to be of your screen. Plug and play. This is a very common term that you'll hear a lot. It's got nothing to do with games and gaming. Okay, it's got to do with functionality. So connecting something to a computer system and then being able to use it right away. That's plug and play. So for example, you take a printer, you plug it into your computer, the computer installs the printer automatically, and you're able to use it within a few seconds. That's plug and play. The VGA cable in this, well, that's just a video graphics adapter cable that's connecting the computer to a monitor. 18.5 inches is the size of the monitor. Now, the thing about a monitor is it's measured from corner to corner, okay, diagonally in inches. We still use inches even though we are not on the imperial system, we are on the metric system. So from one corner to the other corner of the screen in inches, that is what we are measuring the size of the monitor in. The aspect ratio, that's for example, this one is 16:9, so that's aspect ratio of width to height. So for example, 16:9 is like a widescreen aspect ratio, so you get like 4:3, which is a square, or just a little bit like a square, and then you get 16:9, 16:10, and that's an aspect ratio, so the width to the height ratio of pictures on your screen. The contrast ratio, that is how the difference between how bright, your brightest bright, and your darkest color on a monitor that it's able to produce. So that's your contrast ratio, how bright or how dim a monitor is able to present a color. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to make sense, okay? What else? Response time. In this situation, we have a 5 millisecond response time. The response time is not your like your local security company. The response time of a monitor, that was a joke, sorry, it was really bad. The response time of a monitor is how quickly a pixel is able to change colors. So the faster the response time, the better quality your monitor is going to be. For example, in a movie, your pixels are constantly changing colors as the movie is changing and graphics are coming through. So the quicker that the monitor can change a pixel color, the better the quality of the monitor. So the faster the response time, the better the quality. Now we're going to have a look at these guys. I'm sure you know what these are. A laser printer and an inkjet. Let's have a look. There are some pros and some cons to both of these, some positives and some negatives. Let's see. So with a laser printer, one of the main positives would be that it is definitely faster than an inkjet, but it is also very expensive to purchase. A laserjet is cheaper to maintain, and it also produces high quality documents. Very good for the laser. How about the inkjet? Now, an inkjet is great for color photos. It's really great if you've got photo paper. Inkjet's really great with nice, vibrant, dynamic colors. But the cartridges are actually very expensive, and actually you end up paying more for the cartridges than you did for the entire printer when you bought it the first time. It's very cheap to purchase, as I mentioned earlier, but the cartridges cost a lot more, so it is very cheap to purchase. However, it's quite expensive to maintain because of the ink and the cartridges. Okay, let's have a look at these two new printers. We have a 3D printer, a three-dimensional printer able to print 3D objects, and an ink tank, not a think tank, an ink tank. Now, the 3D printer is fantastic. It's able to take filament, a special kind of plastic or different kinds of plastics, through a tube into a special compartment, into a nozzle that's heated up, and it squirts out the melted ink at a very fine rate and ratio. And then actually, as you see in this little video clip, hold on a second, let me just show you the video clip again. There it is there, and it actually then layer by layer builds up an object from a 3D model or a 3D file that we then put into the printer's program, and it's very useful. You can print almost anything. Right, the ink tank. The ink tank holds a lot more than the standard inkjet. It uses a refillable tank system with ink bottles. So they got a lot, just 4 or 5 or 6 of these bottles of ink, and you fill these bottles with the ink and they stay connected to the printer. It has a continuous ink delivery system. It's a lower cost per page compared to the inkjet. It's ideal for lots and lots of printing, and the ink lasts longer. That's the ink tank system, and you can see here's an example of an Epson printer, and on the side you've got the ink connected to it, and you would just flip open the lid, pour in the ink when you need it, close the lid, and off it goes. So the ink tank is actually a very new system and much more preferred to the inkjet system. And there you have bits and pieces of all the output concerned with hardware and output.